Hi, this is Cindy Casita, my Florida Coastal team. Welcome back to our channel. Well, today we're going to talk about getting your listing in the MLS. So you've been to the property, you've looked at it again, you've filled out your data form so you know all your particulars about the property, because you sure don't want to get back to the office and go, now what kind of floor was in the kitchen? It's been there, done that. So make sure you fill out your data sheets properly. You also have your pictures back from the photographer, so you can kind of go through those real quickly and see what, looks good, doesn't look good. We have rules in our MLS if it's a condo or the house. The outside of the first picture has to be the outside of the property. Unless the property is sitting right on the water, then we can do like a beach view from the balcony of that property. So, just look at your MLS rules, and I'm sure you've been over to your realtor organization and taken the MLS classes that you have to take to show you understand how to put a listing in. And so now you're ready to put it in. So when you go in and open up the MLS or any MLS, they have all of those things that you filled out on your data sheet are in the MLS. I mean, when I first got started, they didn't have the validation point. Now they have the validation point that you can hit. It'll show you the things that are required to submit the listing to the MLS. Well, it didn't then, so it was everything had to be filled in as far as I knew. And so I was sitting in the middle of our data center at the KW office, which was, there's a walkway that went all the way through the office, and it was like about halfway. And so I would get as far as I could go, and I'd go, oh, I don't know what that means. And then somebody would walk by and I'd say, excuse me, could you help me with this question real quick, please? And they go, sure, no problem. And they would stop and help me on that question, and off I go again until I'd hit another question I didn't know. I'd say, excuse me, could you help me with this, please? And then sure enough, somebody else would step in and help me with that until I got all the way through it, and then you could try to submit it. Then once you try to submit it back then, it would say with a little arrow, all the crap that you'd missed in there. So, it's important. I like the validating thing because you can do that as you go and see what you've missed and, what you need to replace and, what's important, not important. So in the form, so you can get through it all. At some point, you may want to hire a coordinator to do this for you. If you're getting, 4 or 5 listings a month and you're also a buyer's agent and you can only be so many places at one time, this is something you can't offload onto a coordinator, but make sure they're a good one. They're not sleeping on the job. But this is an important part of knowing that you know how to do it. To be able to teach someone, you need to do it so you can teach them so they can do it. So if you're hiring a professional coordinator, not someone on your team, they are very well trained and they do fine, and they have a boss they answer to. They do charge you per file. Sometimes it's $250 to $350. And they also charge you if you're using them to, once the contract comes in on your listing, to get it to closing. Now that could be $350 to $400. So you got to be kind of careful. These numbers get out of hand. And when your commission is not very much, if you only get a $2,000, $3,000 check, you don't want to be giving it to everybody else. You need to put some money away for yourself for those rainy days. So, be sure and, see if the numbers work for you. Usually the first couple of listings, do them yourself until you get to the point that what you're doing doesn't make you money, that it is just, paperwork, and like, you took the disc profile to see what your proficiency were. Paperwork is not my proficiency. So I, like to do, have that outsourced when I need to. If it's keeping me from having a customer to get a listing in, hire someone to do it for you. But then again, it depends on your price point. You don't want to give away all your money. Those first checks are so precious. And, if your check's a $40,000 check, yeah, you got some money to play with. If it's a $3,000 check, that's a little harder to swallow. So, measure what's best for your business in there. Send the listing to the seller to make sure you haven't missed some important data that needs to be talked about. We have like 3,000 words, a little paragraph at the very top about the listing. Make sure that you've covered everything in the listing, and then you have your realtor remarks. They won't be able to see that, but you send to them. But make sure your remarks are correct. Make sure there's a lobby code there's in there, a door code is in there. If the doorknob is really wonky to work, you have to do the handle up to be able to get in. if it was a European one, put that in your notes so the buyer's agent won't be standing at the door going, I can't get this door open. Locational lockbox, be sure and put that in there. It's important. We have some condos that they have storage units underneath the building where the parking garages are. And the lock boxes, they usually hang them on those little storage units where you're talking about. There's 6 to 8 per parking spot down there. And they're all lined up this way. Well, wouldn't you know that none of those storage units are in numerical order. Number 2 will be next to number 32 and 45. So it's kind of like, where's Waldo in finding the lockbox? So, put a really good location, like across from the motor lobby door. You'll see a row of storage units, and it's right along in there. Something to give them a helpful hint as to where it is. Don't say north side of the building, south side of the building, because I get in these buildings and I get turned around and I can't tell north from south and east from west, other than I know the beach is on the west. But just be very descriptive as to where these lock boxes are and how they get in. You use your fob and go into that motor lobby, and then you take the elevator up to the floor. Just be helpful. The easier it is for them to get into the unit, the easier it'll be to write an offer for you. So be sure and be very specific as to where all these things are. Let your people know that you're making the listing live, and reiterate the instructions they gave you on when to get into the building. You can get in, you can't get in, or whatever the rule is for them. If they're working from home or there's a baby sleeping, whatever it is, or if it's vacant. Be sure and make sure your instructions are clear on that. Now, that's why I use a electronic lockbox. If you put vacant on the property, when you're setting up your appointments, which we'll talk about in another video, your vacants are important because they're kind of your place fillers to go in there. So you want to be sure that that you have a good lockbox on it, that you control the entrance on it, so you know when they're there and not there. So and when you can check, so you can check the doors, etc., from your listing. So just make sure that you have got a good lockbox on it so that they don't just go willy-nilly into it and or give the code out to people. So your listing's ready to go live. So first thing you gotta do is answer your phone, because if the phone rings right after you've submitted the listing, you got a hot listing, and that's great for your seller. So good luck. Thanks again. Thank you for watching. If you're looking to be a better agent, or you're a new agent getting into the business, you might want to look at a couple of these new videos that we have that will help you on that process. I want to thank you for watching. If you liked what we're saying, please like and subscribe. Look forward to talking to you again.